Hello and welcome to the Album Man, and today it's time for CDs, and well, CDs I've always said I didn't really buy any vinyl in October, but I did buy quite a decent stack of CDs because, well, in September it was my 18th birthday, so I had quite a bit of money to spend in October. And yeah, so let's start, and we'll start with, well, something a bit heavier, because winter and autumn, traditionally the times of the year when I listen to the heaviest metal, the thrash and death and post-metal and stuff like that, stuff with a bit of bite, even a bit of black metal, but not too much because I don't really like black metal. So, Celtic Frost, Monotheist. This was the last album that Celtic Frost released, I believe. And of course, Celtic Frost, the band Tom G. Warrior, who now is basically Triptychon, who I'm going to see very soon, and or have seen. I don't really know when I'll be posting this video, but yeah, I have seen or I'm going to see. And I've really been enjoying their new album, Melisandre Kazmata, something like that. I don't know how to say the name off the top of my head without reading it from somewhere. But yeah, so this basically, with Celtic Frost, who don't know, they're one of the founders of sort of black metal, but one of the good things about them is they don't have that awful black metal vocal that stuff like bands like Dark Throne and Emperor and things like that tend to have. No, instead you have, like, it's sort of a, again, I wouldn't call it growls, like, it's slightly more guttural, lower style than like standard clean singing, but you can definitely understand everything Tom G. Warrior is singing, and then that's always pretty cool. Basically, I would really call this a gothic metal album. This has a lot of, well, gothic sound to it. I would say even with some doom in it, and I really would very much hesitate to call it black metal, but definitely on a track like Oz Absmi Veldath, it can even get a bit melodic at times. You know, you're not going to find massive choruses here, but there's definitely a couple of hooks. This really is just a masterful metal album. I definitely recommend it if you're a metal fan. Next we have a bit of Bob Dylan to help flesh out my Bob Dylan collection, which is always good. So we have here remastered the first Bob Dylan album, imaginatively titled Bob Dylan. Look at this awful thing he's wearing. I mean, what an air possessed him to dress like this for an album shoot. I don't know why he decides to wear this stupid hat, but I suppose he was going for that proper good old, you know, folk look. And this album generally is, it's pretty weak, if I'm going to be quite honest. I mean, there are some good songs, particularly his cover of House of Rising Sun. I actually really like that. Do I prefer it to the Animals version? No, but I still think it's quite a fantastic version. And stuff like Highway 51 Blues is good, Talking New York and Man of Constant Sorrow. It's certainly not a great Dylan album. And then we have another one, another side of Bob Dylan. And this definitely is a step up. This features stuff like Ballads in Plain D, I Shall Be Free, number 10. Let's see, oh yeah, the best song, of course, Chimes of Freedom. That's a wonderful song. I know Bruce Springsteen really loves that song. And yeah, that's definitely one of my favourite sort of early 60s Dylan songs. Another side of Bob Dylan. Not as good as something like Freewheeling, but definitely an enjoyable listen. So getting back to something heavier, and something I was really pleased to find quite cheap. This is Isis's Raving Radiant. Isis, if you don't know, they're a post-metal band, probably my favourite post-metal band. Which basically, if you don't know what post-metal is, really sort of like crashing heavy riffs with also really like lighter, cleaner parts. And there's a lot of sort of juxtapositions between the heavier parts and the lighter parts. And it tends to have some sort of more growling vocal styles, and oftentimes sort of mixed with some clean. So it creates a really interesting, diverse sound. And this is their last album they released, I believe, before they split up, unfortunately. And I would definitely say more like a melodic and maybe slightly less heavy than some of the classic works like Oceanic and my absolute favourite Panopticon, which is one of my favourite metal albums of, well, honestly, just one of my favourite metal albums. I absolutely love that record. And yeah, they're a bit lighter, but definitely a good album. Isis band I always like to recommend. So something quite different to Isis, the band So the band, if you don't know, they are probably most famous for backing Dylan on the Basement tapes, which that's all been now released fully in some nice box set. And I decided to pick this up mainly because I've been really enjoying the track The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down. Sort of rediscovered that track and really like it, so just I saw this HMV because I was looking for something from the band and thought, oh okay, this has music from the Big Pink as well, which honestly I can't say I've actually listened to yet. And yeah, I found the self-titled album here, the band, definitely an enjoyable album, not massively, not my usual cup of tea, but sort of a Americana, again a little bit folkier sort of rock sound. A good album though, a good album. If you like that type of rootsy Americana type music, you probably find something to enjoy. And something not too dissimilar from Dylan and the band, Bruce Springsteen. And this to me is probably his most underrated album, Working on a Dream. This is one of my absolute favourite Springsteen albums. This, Born to Run and The Rising are probably three of my favourites. Well, Born in the USA as well, of course. This features the epic Outlaw Pete, which is this wonderfully, lyrically interesting story just about, well, sort of an outlaw called Pete, a bit of sort of a Jesse James type, you know, cowboy type figure. Not cowboy, more sort of obviously outlaw, shockingly enough. But this also has the bonus track. It has The Wrestler, which is the song from the Darren Aronofsky film of the same name, featuring Mickey Rourke, who somehow managed to actually win in a boxing fight the other day against some 28-year-old, which bizarre considering he's in his 60s, but besides the point. And I love that song. I'm an absolute massive fan of that film. Darren Aronofsky is my favourite director. He also did things like Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream, and recently in 2014 Noah, which was pretty shite and I wouldn't recommend seeing. Stick with Black Swan, The Wrestler, they're his best songs. This also has Queen of the Supermarket, Working on a Dream. It's just a really strong Springsteen album, featuring the E Street Band, the last album to feature Clarence Clemens on saxophone before he sadly passed away. Definitely highly recommended. Now I admit this one is actually one I haven't got round to, shockingly enough. But yeah, Downs Nola. I hear quite a bit about Down. I know they're a band that Phil Anselmo did after Pantera, and I often hear this talked about sort of in Doom circles, this really strong Doom album and a bit of a Doom supergroup. I know they released a new album this year, Part 2 of an EP. Honestly, I have nothing to say, I really have not listened to this at all yet. Judas Priest's Defenders of the Faith. I've been on a real Judas Priest kick recently. Ever since Redeemer of the Souls, to be honestly, I've been listening to a lot of Judas Priest. I couldn't resist this album. Definitely a great one. This has tracks like The Sentinels, probably the best track here. Free Wheel Burning as well. And Defenders of the Faith, I'd say, are probably my three favourites from the album. Very strong, 80s Priest. If you like classic Priest, you definitely like this. Good album. Again, one I haven't quite got around to yet, Black Tie, White Noise by David Bowie. I don't often hear very good things about this, but it was £1. So if I see Bowie for £1, I'll pick it up. Why the hell not? Yeah, that's probably why I haven't got around to it yet, is because, well, I don't know if it's going to be that good. Yeah, you know, I will give it a listen, of course. Probot. Now, this is an interesting album. Again, I haven't quite got around to it yet. But this is basically Dave Grohl's supergroup that he did with various metal musicians, featuring people like King Diamond, Tom G. Warrior, Max Cavalera, Cronus, Lemmy, of course, and basically he did sort of a track of each of them, and yeah, it sounds really cool. I have this on my phone. Probably can listen to this over the next couple of days, because it does look really quite interesting. Now, this was something I was very pleased to pick up for cheap. Metallica's Garage, well, sorry, not Garaging, Metallica's S&M even, I have Garaging, but S&M, one of the very few Metallica albums or official releases that I don't own. So this is cool. This is one of their, well, few really official live albums, and they recorded this with the San Francisco Philharmonic Orchestra. So you have these orchestrated versions of things like Master of Puppets and Call of Cthulhu, Memory Remains, and you know, Enter Sandman, and some of their classic songs. And I really like the versions. You know, do I prefer them to the original versions or the version they perform live today? No, I don't. But I think it's a really interesting live disc, and I'm pleased they did something like this. I think it's very cool and very interesting. Definitely one of the better things they've done from the 90s, without a doubt. Well, if you know my channel at all, you'll know that I adore Guns N' Roses, and I can't resist anything Guns N' Roses related, so when I see Gilby Clarke's solo album for £1, why the hell not? Yeah, I haven't got around to this yet. Who the hell knows what this is like? If you've had this, please do tell me. I don't even know what to expect from Gilby Clarke's solo album. If you don't know when Gilby Clarke was in the band, he replaced Izzy Stradlin after Izzy Stradlin, the rhythm guitarist, of course, after he left on the Use Your Illusion World Tour. Gilby Clarke came in, and he also played on the album The Spaghetti Incident. So overall, his career of GNR was hardly that good, but still, he was a member. Tried to get close to completing my Foo Fighters discography, so bought the first Foo Fighters album, the self-titled, well, Foo Fighters. This is the one that Dave Grohl, I think, records this all himself, all the guitar, all the drums, all the bass, all the vocals. I think pretty much everything was him on this. Haven't listened to it yet, but it has some tracks like Weenie Beanie, which is still sometimes played, and or Stick Around, which are probably and I think Ecstatic. I know those 3 songs from the album. It's definitely an early, rawer sound to the Foo Fighters, and I wouldn't say it's as good as their later material, but it's definitely interesting. Okay, wait 1 sec. Right, so one band I have surprisingly little of is Led Zeppelin. You might find that a bit weird, considering I'm a massive classic rock fan, and of course I like Zeppelin not, but yeah, I didn't own House of the Holy and In Through the Outdoor. This is definitely better than In Through the Outdoor. This is one of their most underrated albums. I mean, Over the Hills, Far Away, Song Remains the Same, The Ocean. It's but the thing is, it's one of those that's become like considered such an underrated album of theirs. It's actually probably getting the credit it deserves nowadays, honestly. And this album, I need to listen to it again, but I wasn't too impressed, honestly. Manson, I was just absolutely, I picked up 6 about a few months ago after someone recommended it to me. I absolutely adored that album, wonderful album. Manson's 6, if you like that type of, it's like a combination between sort of Britpop, Radiohead type stuff. If you like that sort of 90s alternative rock with a bit of a progressive edge, a bit of a Radiohead flair to it, Manson's 6 is definitely an album to check out. Check out the songs Shotgun and Negative particularly. Just really wonderful tracks. So I decided to pick this up. This is their first album, and 6 has been one that's been on constant rotation throughout since I bought it. This, I've listened to it like twice, and I don't know, it hasn't grabbed me in the same way. I probably should listen to it again, but songs like Manson's Only Love Song's pretty good, and I don't know, it just hasn't grabbed me too much yet. I only paid like 99p for it. Need to listen to it a bit more. Queens of the Stone Age, their original self-titled, I believe, debut. This is definitely a rawer, far heavier sound as this completely falls down, which is always good. A bit annoying now. Will this stay up? I don't know. Maybe. So yeah, this is definitely raw, heavier sound. I was particularly wanted to pick this up after, because I've been listening to Royal Bloods, the new sort of UK Brighton duo, who are the hot, upcoming British rock band at the moment, and they're heavily influenced by the sound. I like Queens of the Stone Age a lot anyway, so it's been something I've wanted to check out. Yeah, something I forgot from September's, I did get Fish's Feast of Consequences. I have done a full review of this album if you want to know my full opinions. In short, wonderful album, one of the best prog releases of 2013. Fish on absolute top form, though 13th star the album before this was wonderful as well. If you like Fish era and really and Clutching at Straws, Misplaced Childhood, or if you like some of his early solo albums like Vigil in the Wilderness, highly, highly recommend it. If you don't like Fish, you're not going to like it, but if you do, you'll love it. Wonderful. The Highwood Suite about World War One, very interesting concept and story, is just masterpiece. Never go wrong with The Who. I'm going to see them soon, very excited to see them on their Who Hits 50 last ever tour, which is definitely sad. And My Generation, the title track, is actually my favourite song, and of course this also features The Kids Are Alright, another classic. The thing is with this album as a whole though, I don't view it as a classic in the same way as like Tommy or Who's Next, or certainly Live in Leeds, which is my favourite Who album. To me, it's just a bit like the early Beatles material in a way, where some of the singles and stuff are really, really good, but there's also a bit of filler. These are all sort of short, sweet, again, very early 60s Beatles-esque tunes, quite honestly. It's a nice album to listen to, but it's not as special as what they really would create in the future. Okay, not too far to go, still a decent amount of albums left then. It Bites, Map of the Past. This is one of my favourite prog albums of 2012. It Bites, very interesting. Well, It Bites have actually been going a long time. Originally there was sort of a, I don't know how to describe them, a more interesting rock band, I suppose, maybe slightly branching into art rock. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of early It Bites. Basically what happened was the guy from Arena, who I've now completely and utterly forgotten the freaking name of, John Mitchell, yeah, so John Mitchell joined the band and became their frontman and guitarist, and took them in a completely new direction, and they've been doing more sort of neo-prog, maybe yeah, I'd say neo-prog's a fair category to describe them. And this is a concept album based on World War II, I'm going to say. I think, actually, looking at it, I'm going to say World War One. It's based on, actually. Yeah, and it's definitely an interesting concept album with some just wonderful songs. What they're really good at doing, this band, is creating some fantastic hooks. Things like Meadow and the Stream, that's one of my favourites, Cartoon Graveyard as well, Clocks, choruses, interesting musicianship. The keyboardist particularly is great. And one of the good things about this is that this particular version has a second disc with some of that older material, some of the classics from the original lead single, like Kiss Like Judas, Once Around the World, All in Red, This Is England, and stuff like that. Is this as good as the Tall Ships, the album that preceded it? I'm not too sure. Originally at the time I thought it was, but Tall Ships is just such a good album. It Bites, an interesting band. If you're a prog lover, you really need to know this band. Okay, a bit more Dylan. If I couldn't have enough Dylan already. This is Bob Dylan with the band Planet Waves. So talking about the band. Earlier, I honestly haven't listened to this yet, but I picked it up simply because I've been listening to the band. I've been listening to a lot of Dylan, of course, so it made sense, really. Travelling World Breeze. This is something I've been meaning to pick up for quite a long time now. I mean, this is the, if you don't know, this is a supergroup with, let's see, Bob freaking Dylan, and he barely appears in supergroups ever. Jeff Lynne from ELO, Tom Petty of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, George Harrison of the freaking Beatles, and Roy Orbison, who's definitely my least favourite member on it. No offence to Roy Orbison, he's okay, but he's not my favourite. This is one of the best supergroup albums ever freaking released. Absolutely fantastic. Highlights, Handle With Care, the main single on the first track, Tweeter and the Monkey Man, a very Dylan song but with a lot of depth from the other musicians. This is of course produced by, well, pretty much produced by Jeff Lynne, of course, as he is such a wonderful producer. And he really put this whole thing together, and it just works so well. All these musicians have a bit of a more acoustic, a sort of a softer background, sort of, it's a lot of sort of more sort of rock and roll here, and, you know, folkier music, I suppose, and it just works really well. Each song is sung by like a different member and stuff, so there's 5 members, 10 tracks, basically, you know, 5 of them sung by one each, and well, basically they sing about lead on 2 each, and then the various vocal harmonies and stuff, and there's just a lot of interplay. There just doesn't seem to be too many egos here. It's not like one person super dominates and yeah, everything else. It just felt like everyone was fair, egos aside, just had some fun, and that's what you really get from this album. Okay, so 2 of the absolute best things that I picked up were, you know, I've said I'm a massive fan of Radiohead. I really am. Well, most of Radiohead. And one of my favourite albums of all time is OK Computer. So when I saw the 2-disc DVD version of it, which you really don't often come across. It's quite a rare thing. I could not resist buying a special version of one of my favourite albums of all time, and just like I couldn't resist the version of Hail to the Thief as well, which I'm not big on. Hail to the Thief obviously is OK Computer, because this is like my, top 5, 6 favourite albums ever, and this isn't. This is still a good album, so yeah, very pleased to pick these up. They're interesting things. This has like all the songs from the EPs and B-sides released around the time, so this has loads of songs from the era. And again, this has quite a few just unreleased tracks, well, certainly unreleased on studio albums, as well as a couple of live stuff and some remixes. Very interesting, and DVDs as well. Wonderful. I really like the Radiohead re-release and what they did with them. Okay, so not too many left. This, Rage and Speed Horn, I was going to see them at Damnation, but didn't actually end up seeing them because I listened to this album and didn't think it was all that good. Okay, Fogget. Fogget, if you ever played Guitar Hero 3, you remember Slow Ride. Slow Ride was a classic song on that. That's how I discovered Fogget. That's how pretty much everyone discovered Fogget. So I decided to actually discover the real Fogget. And it turns out these guys are from Manchester. I always thought they were American, because they sold far better in America than they ever did over here in Britain. But yeah, so actually from not too far away, relatively. Wonderful, wonderful freaking rock. This is some of the best, well, maybe that's a bit too much, but this is certainly some fantastic 70s hard rock. You like 70s classic rock, Fogget's Fall for the City, particularly genius album, wonderful. And Slow Ride, the 4 8-minute version, is just an epic, one of the best rock songs of the 70s. Something very interesting, Anathema's Pentecost 3, this is an EP. This is from when they had their original singer Darren White, so this is like a really good, really like Death Doom heavy album with some growling vocals and some definitely harsher tones, definitely different Anathema to what they are now. Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheers. Decided to pick this up because I've had this recommended to me so many times. Oh, check out Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheers, one of the classic 90s albums. Oh, this is great, you like it. Absolutely don't like it at all. I really don't. I think it's utter shite. If I'm going to be quite frank, is, what's his name, a good bassist? The bassist here, he is a freaking wonderful, Les Claypool, wonderful bassist. No doubt there. No one's going to deny that. I fucking hate his voice. Like, let's just be blunt, his voice sucks. The songs kind of suck, aside from the bass lines. I don't like anything about this album, really, aside from the bass. The bass is amazing. If this album was just bass, it would probably be better. It's the vocals particularly, oh. I'll give it maybe another listen, but I really didn't enjoy it. Mars Volta, I've been very much getting into them. This is their album called Francis the Mute. Haven't got round to it yet, so I can't say too much about it. Wasting Light by the Foo Fighters. Picked this up on a 2 for 5 at That's Entertainment, and really been getting into this. In fact, this has actually become one of my favourite, well, Foo Fighters albums of all time. This, Echo Silence, Patience, Grace, and Colouring Shape are definitely my 3 favourites. Far better than fairly okay Sonic Highways, which recently came out. Tracks like Bridge Burning, Walk, Arlandria in particular is the best track. Yeah, great, great modern rock music. Animal Collective. I actually picked this up thinking this was a different band. Yeah, I thought they were, oh god, what's their name? There's an instrumental prog metal band with Animal in the name. You know who I mean. And I thought they were them. It turns out they're not, like a 60s-ish, psychedelic-ish band. It's okay, this album. Considering I didn't mean to really buy this band. It's not the band I thought they were, though. And then lastly, but certainly not least, My Bloody Valentine's Loveless. I've been getting into a lot of post-rock, and I hear people often call this one of the defining post-rock albums. Definitely cool. Very shoegazy, super shoegazy, I'd say. I really, really like the first track, which, Only Shallow, that's such a good song. Yeah, I mean, it's not, I know some people freaking adore this and hell, this is a masterpiece. I wouldn't say I love this album, but it's definitely a good listen, no doubt about it. So yeah, this has been my CDs I bought recently for October 2014, and this has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, as usual. Long live rock and roll.